Welcome everyone, and today, um, in the live, we have joining me for the happy hour, as we call this. We're calling this the happy hour. Welcome to another happy hour with AJ, and today I'm really excited because today I'm having a really awesome guest here. Deidre Pujols, and we're gonna be talking about really a lot of cool stuff that she's involved with. And Deidre is an amazing woman. She's kind of obsessed with the Wonder Woman, and I think she's a real life Wonder Woman. So um, I'm really excited to have her, and I'm waiting for her to join. Okay, she's already here, so I'm just gonna welcome her into the chat. We're waiting for her to accept a request.
Hello,
Hola!
hola.
How are you?
I'm good. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. I'm so excited to have you here. Like you have no idea. Well, you do.
Thank you for having me. I know a lot of your listeners are probably Spanish speaking, and that's my second language. So just to make sure I communicate properly, we're going to go with English today.
Yeah. I know that.
But
For
thanks for
sure.
having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you accept to talk to me, especially today because I was doing some research and I know that tomorrow the Pujols Family Foundation is turning 15 years old.
Oh, yeah, on the 5th. Yeah. And today is a special day because I think Albert is getting kind of honored throughout Major League
Yeah,
Baseball's television station, and they're showing all his highlights from his career. So that's pretty cool too.
yeah, it's really cool, especially because well, since I have you here, I'm just gonna be a fangirl for a little bit before we get to the serious stuff.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Like, Albert was like my brother's favorite player when he was a kid. I mean, he still is, but he's older now.
hmm
So I'm 2 years older, and we used to share rooms. So, and my brother used to cry a lot, like for everything, being the little brother, the baby, he would get anything, just crying. So we have to share TV. And I wasn't really into baseball back then, but whenever like the Cardinals game was like being televised in the Dominican Republic, we had to watch that because he had to watch, Albert, and he would just cry if I didn't put it. So like through that, I think it's really cool because after that, I got to really into baseball, and then now this is what I do. So I think Albert has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I get a lot of stories, and now that we're
Yeah,
out, now that Albert and I are dinosaurs in baseball, we get we get to hear about everybody's growing up stories. So that just makes me feel old.
yeah, it was so cool. I finally like I met him last year. It was 2019 when he came to the Dominican, and it was so cool because I was like, "Oh, Albert Pujols." So, but when I get to him, I don't even say hi. I'm like, "Did Deidre come?"
Oh yeah, I know. I remember
He,
you telling me that.
yeah, and he was just laughing. He's like, "No, she didn't come this time," and I was like, "Hi."
Yeah, I remember you met him when he was there last time. And he told me that
Yeah.
she just asked for you. So that was good.
I'm so sorry. I'm so excited.
Good. No, I appreciate your show. I like that you're growing it and getting out there and not afraid to get in front of some of these guys. You know, baseball's changed a lot, so the kids you're interviewing now are definitely a different generation than if you would have interviewed Albert all those years ago. So it's special to kind of watch
Yeah,
you grow in that profession.
it's amazing. And thank you for that. So, putting my finger aside, we're gonna go into the real business and let's talk about a little bit about the Pujols Family Foundation. Like, it's gonna be 15 years tomorrow,
hmm
but I want to know how it all got started.
hmm
It has been an amazing ride for you guys, the amazing job that you've been doing. But what was that? Like, what was the one thing that you say, hey, we need to do this. This is what we're gonna do.
Well, and when Albert, well, of course, I have a daughter who's 22 now. She was just 3 years old when Albert went to the big leagues. And so when Albert was like in his second year, I think it was, of being with the Cardinals in professional baseball, and we were still super young, we were just getting a taste of what it felt like to be pulled on from the world. All these different, people wanted to know everything, and just pulling something from us. And so at some point I was like, hey, we better know what we stand for. We're going to fall for anything. And so we connected with a guy named Todd Perry, who's been running the organization all of these years. And he's done a brilliant job really connecting with community and making it grow. And so and we also saw a need from the community of people with Down syndrome and their families. Like, they almost needed an ambassador. And so Albert and I, jumped on board, and that's what became the Pujols Family Foundation. And now, thousands of families in St. Louis and really the country and around different parts of the world have been impacted by the effort of the Pujols Family Foundation, which does nearly 200 events every year, like just all different kinds of experiences for people with disability, or with disabilities, but mostly people with Down syndrome. So Albert's come to the Dominican Republic. Both him and I have come to the Dominican Republic and participated in different events, down there as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just been awesome. It was necessary, because it was a place where we could really express and support the community with Down syndrome. We knew what it felt like to have a child with Down syndrome. So it was good.
I love, like, I see many of the events that you guys do, but my favorite that I sing is like the prom. Because it's like so cute. Like, they dress up, and I just have like, because people don't really understand maybe. And you say your daughter is 22, so I'm 22. So I used to have a neighbor when I lived here in Dominican Republic. Well, he was actually my aunt's neighbor, but I went so much to their house, I felt like he was my neighbor. And he was just like a regular guy. Like, he would play dominoes, he would play Monopoly with all the guys and all the stuff. So for me, I didn't see, and maybe it's because I was young, I didn't see what he was different. For me, he was like, I don't see why he's like treated as a special, because I see that he plays dominoes with us.
Yeah.
He plays Monopoly. He does everything we do. But some people are now, like, I would say, is not well educated about it, what Down syndrome is.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure, like, Bella, because that's her name,
Yeah,
Bella, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know she's a 22-year-old, just like me, trying to figure it out, trying to get really cute shoes and dresses and everything. So I think it's amazing that you guys, just took that and run with it, because you have done like such an amazing thing for so many people, all around.
Yeah. So
And
now I feel
also,
old because I could be your mom, but that's okay. Yeah, but you're right. Bella is at an age where she's trying to figure it all out. And even though she knows she's different, she still wants her own place, and she can cook her own meals, and she can do, really independent life on her own. It's usually us that's more protective of her than anything. Um, but the other part of Pujols Family Foundation, which I didn't mention, is the work that we do in the Dominican Republic, and some of the bates, and some of the health workers that we bring from the States down there, and we set up shop in these different bates, and we just serve the communities, because they wouldn't have the service otherwise, And so that's been one of my most passionate programs that we've run, is when we're able to come there. And now I travel all over the world for the efforts of human trafficking, but I feel like a big part of growing up in the Dominican and kind of growing up in philanthropy in the Dominican Republic really has prepared me for where I'm at now. So it's been great. It's been really, really amazing.
and I know, like, you're not Dominican, you're from Kansas City, right?
I am from Kansas
But
City.
I know you did, yeah. I don't know if you did. I mean, I don't know if you're still doing it, but I know that you did like these recipes, like the Dominican food recipes.
Yeah.
And it was on a website. So that was really interesting to me, because she's like, oh, I was like, oh, she's going full Dominican now.
Yeah. So that story is that when Albert and I were just dating, well, one of my first experiences was meeting his grandmother in the kitchen, and she was cooking over these huge calderos, which I didn't know they were even called calderos in the moment. But I would be like, why is she cooking why is she cooking so much food? There's nobody in the house. And then you would see like people come for lunch, and all of a sudden there were like 10 people in the house, and you realize why Abuela was cooking all this food. And so that was my first experience with like the Dominican culture. And so
Yeah.
once I kind of like was digging Albert and, was like, hey, I better figure out how to cook for this dude if, if this is what he likes. And so, you know what? I actually set up times to go be with his tias and his grandmas, and I would like take a notepad and pen and I would watch them like, what can you make for me? So at first it was just, pollo guisado and rice and habichuela, just the simple things. But
Yeah.
what was so funny is that they don't use measuring for anything, right? So
We
I
don't.
so I
We
was
don't.
like, oh my God, scoop of rice, some water, I had to kind of figure it out myself. And in the beginning, I couldn't even make a pot of
Yeah.
rice. And here, 22 years later, I could make it with the blindfold on. But it just, that was, I had to start somewhere. But I always loved cooking. So for me, it was really cool to be able to learn, new food or whatever. So over the years, once I got good at cooking Dominican food, Albert would actually have me often make food for the guys on the other teams, which is something that you probably know they do when they travel from
Yeah.
city to city. They want home cooked meals, and so Albert would always ask me to make food, to share with the guys who are coming in from other teams and stuff. So that was one of the cool things I got to do, and no, I've enjoyed it. Learning Dominican food is one of the coolest things, I've gotten to do with the culture.
And I know, like, I'm gonna give it to you because they, as a Dominican myself, we don't measure anything. Like, I bake, right? And I remember I did some brownies for a friend, and she asked me, like, this is so good. Like, the texture is so. What do you do for it to be like that? I'm like, what do I do? What? And she's like, did you put more flour? Do you put more, like, how many spoons? I'm like, spoons of what? No, I just
Yeah,
throw it
yeah.
out and there. Look at it. In Spanish, we call it al ojo. So
Uh-huh,
it's like, I
uh-huh.
look at it, it needs more chocolate. Just put a little more, just a little more. And that's all.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't measure.
So one of the cool things that I did in the lattes was I actually took a videographer with me and kind of did my own little show. I never like published it or put it out there or anything, but it was fun for me. To where I asked about five ladies from different communities to like prepare a dish that they could cook for me and with me in front of me. And I would go and I'd take the videographer and I would just take notes, literally the same kind of way, right? Because they were making more like Haitian influenced food. And so
Okay.
that was new for me, like something like chen chen, which is a whole nother thing that you could kind of compare to rice in a Haitian way, but it's not rice. And so I had to learn about now this Haitian culture, which was so cool because you can really see the African influence in their food as well. So that was one really neat thing that I did, and maybe one day I'll publish those videos because it was really quite an experience. I mean, these ladies, they never ever had, they wanted to know, why do I want to come and learn how to cook? They couldn't figure it out, but I had my videographer, and yeah, I mean, like when it comes to the culinary industry, it's my passion too with helping people. So that was really like where we married that idea.
And that's awesome. I'm like, going to that, we should just go straight to open gates. That goes together with your, passion
Yeah,
for food.
uh-huh.
Like, I've been looking at your stories and I've been like, oh my God. Like, the cookies and the this and that. I'm like, oh my goodness. But you work out too, because I'm like, I'm worried because how is she gonna
Oh
look
my
after
God,
the.
on this quarantine, don't know, I can't even tell you how many batches of cookies I have made so far. But yes, I work out because most of the time the kids are the ones asking me for the cookies. But yeah, so in 2016, I started traveling to different parts of the world trying to understand the issue of human trafficking. Human trafficking is also an issue in the Dominican Republic. So I I had heard about it before, but it was never really on my radar as far as philanthropy until I was really invited into it. So I started in Mexico City, went to go look at some friends of mine down there who have an organization called El Pozo de Vida. Um, and I was like immediately just drawn in. I had to know more. I had to learn more. So before I knew it, I was in Cambodia and India, and I went to Greece and Moldova and Russia, and I mean, I just went to all these different places, meeting up with organizations and people who are fighting against human trafficking. So I was able to really study it at the fullness of, and including the states. I also went around to different organizations within the states and into the State Department, and I was in all these different places. So by the time I finished my traveling for that particular year, I had to ask myself, what was I going to do? Because I couldn't just not do anything, you know. And I could write a check and say, I'll pray for you and kind of walk away. But I ended up deciding to um, create, again, out of my passion for culinary arts, create an opportunity where we could take what we thought originally was just going to be human trafficking victims or survivors, and we would create a program for them that would try to help reintegrate them back into society with, you know, proper like therapies, and we could walk alongside with them as they're healing and all these things. Well, um, we started to kind of create this project, and then as we developed the program and started relationships within Orange County community out here in California, we realized there was so many other vulnerable populations. So the homeless population had a need for reintegration, people who are coming out of prison, veterans who couldn't get work when they came back from serving our country, domestic violence victims, and also labor and sex trafficking victims, kids who were coming out of the foster care system who had no outlet to college and no other opportunities. So we're
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, maybe we've just created something for a much bigger, you know, population. And so sure enough, that's what we've done. We've graduated, it'll be almost be 100, 200 students up to date. And even though we're in a quarantine, we've decided to do some online, you know, the online courses with Zoom and whatnot to keep the students just studying, because a big part of our curriculum is studying. But Open Gate International has been like a ride of a lifetime. I mean, it's taken off so quickly. And of course, our flagship headquarters is here in Orange County, where we are actually just getting ready to launch a cafe called Pujols Kitchen. That was what my website was. It's called Open Gate Kitchen. And it's going to be actually 3 weeks of on the job site training for our students that graduate. And so we'll give them a chance to experience, you know, work in a real kitchen with real orders, serving the community. So in addition to the Orange County uh, Open Gate International program that we have, we also are now partnered in Mexico City with that organization. We have Open Gate International in India, in Mumbai, in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. We're on the ground heavily in a place called Moldova, Chisinau, Moldova. It's in Eastern Europe.
Moldova, that's Mexico, right? Yeah.
What is that? In Moldova?
Moldova is
Moldova,
Mexico.
no, Moldova is in Eastern Europe. It's in between the Ukraine and Romania. Nobody knows about
Oh,
the place. I didn't even know it was a place until somebody invited me there. But
oh,
interestingly enough,
Mexico, they have Monclova. It's so similar, right?
yeah. So right now in
Monclova.
Mexico, we're only in Mexico City. We haven't branched out just yet. We have some great partners there, and they're taking the women who are choosing to come out of prostitution and learn other trades. That's the people that they're serving there, and so it's been awesome. And I go hands on to all these places so that I can really be encouraged and kind of know exactly the populations of people that we're serving, so we can do the program right for them. But we're looking at Uganda and a couple of other places to launch next when the world opens back up. And so it's been so awesome. And the people who work, yeah, Judy Lamborn does our life skills program. So what we're able to do with people who come in and might not be like whole, you know, some of them are really broken if they come from addictions or bad experiences or trauma. She really walks them through this incredible life skills program that they can, you know, take into their practice of culinary arts and into their lives. So Chef Cynthia, she does our culinary arts program where she's teaching all the food. She's brilliant. And so we're just riding this thing out, man. We're watching people's lives. I mean, literally some students who've been on the back alley, drugged out, full of drugs and drinking, to having their own cars, moving into their own apartments. I mean, just life totally transformed. So I will never get tired of watching that happen, and
Yeah,
it's a big part of why I'll just keep doing it. You know, I watch people who come out of the slums of India and put on a chef's coat. You can see some of that on my Instagram posts, but you can see them put on a professional uniform and go to class. You would never know where they came from, right? Like, and so our services are provided free for the folks who come in and for the students. But as you can see, I'm passionate about that. It has been a
Yes.
labor of love. And again, I'm going to just try to keep building that franchise program in different parts of the world.
It's a beautiful thing that you're doing, and I see like the way you speak about it. It's like when parents are talking about their children, they
Yeah.
never like.
Oh, maybe I should
So
talk
it's a
about my
beautiful
children like
thing.
that. Well, I have five kids, by the way, who are all darling.
Oh, it's crazy. It's amazing that you get to do such an amazing job all around. And one of the things that you did, and I'm so sad that I missed it because I had to go to Texas when it happened in New York. It was the concert for,
Strikeout
strikeout
slavery.
slavery.
Hmm.
And I was so excited for it. And then when I looked that I had to be in Texas, I was like heartbroken.
No, it was an
But
amazing time.
next season, yeah,
Yeah.
I think next season I will be able to be there.
So when I launched Open Gate International, the other question, as I realized, like, what can I do for this issue? How can I make an impact? Well, Open Gate International was one of the answers. But then also I had to think about, well, what is our influence in baseball? How can we make an impact through this platform? So I went to Major League Baseball with Albert. I flew him all the way across the country on an off day to sit down with Major League Baseball, to ask them, like, are you guys doing anything about this issue? Because it's significant and it's all over and it impacts sports. And they weren't doing anything at the time. They invited me back with to bring my like the professionals that I had met along the way. We had a great roundtable discussion, but still I could tell there was really they still didn't know what they were dealing with when I talk about this stuff. And a lot of people think it's like something that happens overseas. They think it's like they see this picture of like a 4-year-old girl with a nasty European man and, in a dark alley. And
Yeah.
yeah, where that is one of the pictures, but it's not all of the picture. And so I decided to just do something on our own, kind of like they did with the Buddy Walk. The Buddy Walk is a walk for Down syndrome, which is where it was just a bunch of parents originally created this event to bring awareness to what Down syndrome was. And I kind of took that model and was like, hey, let's just do strikeout slavery at one event where we will use a baseball stadium and like an image like Albert to be the ambassador for this issue, bring it to the stadium and try to help create awareness within the fan base at the ballpark. And so we connected with a beautiful company called Reveille, who built really the framework of what strikeout slavery is. And we had a concert, which we had Nick Jonas the first 2 years, and he brought in all the
I
screaming young ladies. So
Me, I should be one of them. Yep,
yeah, no,
for
I
sure.
mean that was important because that was one of the populations that we really wanted to go after.
Yeah.
So we brought Nick Jonas in, and I mean, it was like over billions of impressions. I mean, we really were able to kind of launch this, especially through social media now, and create this awareness. But what we did was we have this alliance of organizations that, probably cover at least 50 countries, including the United States. And with their knowledge and information, we put this really beautiful family festival on that was safe for anybody to come and experience. So last year we did New York, Kansas City, and then again at the Angel Stadium, and we had Lauryn Hill as the performer this last year, and she was really an incredible advocate because she's a very justice-minded person anyway. And so, yeah, I mean, this year we don't have baseball, but we're still just trying to stay up
Yeah.
on the information that's coming through with the different organizations. And we want people to still know, like right now, human trafficking is like 3 times higher, just not just because, you can't think it just goes away because we're in a quarantine. It actually gets worse, and online sex trafficking has tripled. So
Yeah.
I know organizations, and I get this information all the time, that people are having to stay extremely proactive, if not more, during a time where now people don't have access to, go find somebody because all the hotels are closed or whatnot, and they're going online, and there's a lot of children being trafficked and stuff. So these are the kind of things that we have to stay up on and make sure people know about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, strikeout slavery has been a pretty a pretty cool campaign, that we've been able to use at a sporting event, that you can at one time reach thousands and thousands of people with this information.
I know you're like Wonder Woman, we know that, but like trying to tackle social and global, because this is like, slavery is human trafficking, it's just social global thing, and it's so controversial. It's everything around it. Like people, it's like people want to like see it, but don't want to see it, and
Mm-hmm,
kind of like
mm-hmm,
knows about it, but
mm-hmm,
try to like not know about
mm-hmm.
it. Just.
Yeah,
But for you to just and tackle it, like you say, you just drag Albert and bring it to the MLB office. Like, yeah, let's talk about this.
yeah.
What are you thinking about this? Like,
Yeah.
how
Well, it was
come up
funny
with?
because in the beginning at Major League Baseball, they were like, "Did you go to the union?" And they said no. And I was like, "No, it's your brand that's on everything. Why would I go to the union?" But interestingly enough, I did actually sit down with the union the last year, before last year's events, and they were the ones who actually really set it off. Like they got Major League Baseball to step up and acknowledge that we needed to be paying attention to it in sports. So that was pretty cool once that happened. It was a joint effort between the Major League Baseball Players Union and Major League Baseball to kind of come and join that alliance within Strikeout Slavery. Now they acknowledge that, yes, we know that it is a problem, and we're looking at statistics, and they're studying it themselves, which is what I wanted in the beginning anyway. So it's been really good to watch them kind of be more proactive. Um, but you said it well, and it's the reason why strikeout slavery exists. The reason is that people do hear that it's happening, they don't like that it's happening, and they don't know what to do about it unless it somehow affects you personally. You think, well, it's a police issue, or it's a courts issue, or the detectives issue, or whatever. No, it's a community issue. It affects everybody, and prevention and education is going to be the number one tool that eliminates the types of numbers that we see of people being impacted by the cause. And so I want people to realize, if you have an electronic device and your kids are on it, they're vulnerable to the strangers that are looking, actively seeking who they might devour with the tools through electronics, and making relationships, and photos and images. And I mean, just there's so many things these days that people can just easily have access to and not even know it. Like, you might have a grown man who's going to look for something on the computer, not realizing that he's actually looking at a child, because they've made the child look old or whatever. So there's just some twisted stuff going on. And the best thing we can do is help people know that it's happening so that they can, stay on the up and up. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm just going to keep talking about it and letting people know the alliance that is within Strikeout Slavery. You can go to strikeoutslavery.com and you can see all the organizations that we've brought together on the sports platform. And we encourage people, get connected with organizations in your area where you can find out what is the best way for you to impact this issue. Is it financially? Is it through education? Do you have access to a lot of kids, that you can be sharing types of ways to educate kids? And so we really advocate strongly. Listen, complacency is not acceptable in this issue. It's not okay. We have to be proactive, know it, share the information, get people, send them to websites that can help educate them. It's not hard, but you have to want to do that.
It's especially one of those things. Like, it's people. I think if we were more informed about it, we will be able to somehow avoid it a little
Mm-hmm.
more, because like people don't understand, like even though we probably don't go out as much now as we used to, because the world just closed down, we are like on Instagram, we are like on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, we are, putting pictures and sharing pictures, and just it's really funny because people are joking about how they like talking right now to people they would never have otherwise. Like, I'm so bored and I'm talking to strangers or
Oh
whatever, but
my
they don't,
gosh.
they are really at risk, because it
Yeah.
can
You
be
got
a
to be
joke and it's
careful.
fun. But like, who is this person that you're talking to? Is he who you think it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy, and it's funny until it's not. Until we really think about it in a way that I don't want to be like a twisted person, like
Right.
dark minded. But when we think about it, and if you go to like sporting events, after the sporting events are like over, you see a lot of things that you don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
See a lot of people like that had too much to drink, going to
Hmm.
places, going with people. Like, we don't want to see it. We kind of like just
Yeah.
frown upon it, but it's a real issue.
Yeah, there's one instance that made me know that I was doing the right thing because it's a big production to put on a strikeout slavery event. I mean, it costs a lot of money. Albert and I have funded it up until this point because I believe that much in the cause. But it was a huge production. But I'll never forget the day that we did the strikeout slavery in the Washington National Stadium. And I actually ended up, something caught my eye. It was a group of girls who were all dressed the same, kind of short shorts, cute little t-shirts. And I thought maybe they were there for Nick Jonas because we had the concert that day. And but then I saw them passing something out, and so I got a hold of it, and they were soliciting for a gentleman's club that was down the street. Well, you can't do that in front of me and me not, say anything about it. And so I ended up walking up to several of them that were standing there and had probably a 25, 30-minute conversation. But by the time I was done with that conversation, almost all of them were crying because I had an opportunity to kind of share my own testimony about my past life. Uh, I got a chance to tell them who they really were and that somebody made them believe that they were good enough to just do this industry and that wasn't okay. I believed better about them. And anyway, before you knew it, I had all the real stories. They had tried to all say they were 21. They were not. And so it's just that to me, when I had that experience on strikeout slavery day, mind you, in 18 years, I had never seen that in Major League Baseball stadium, and I've been to all of them. And so to me, I was like, okay, like I'm onto something here because this is not okay. And yeah, I mean, to me, that was like, this needs to happen. It doesn't need to be, it's just not about me. It's not about Albert. It isn't about who's doing it. It's that it needs to be done. People in big with that have big stadiums where people are spending lots of money and packing themselves into these ballparks to support a team. That team has a social responsibility to address these kinds of issues. And where some people had said like, oh, we just want a hot dog and a beer and we want to enjoy the game with our son. And I'm like, well, you can either do it in a safe atmosphere with professional, information, and we can help you teach your kids, or your kid's going to just find out on his own through his friends or social media or an accident, or God forbid they become some kind of a victim themselves. So I had that when people try to come back at me with whether an event like this, talking about an issue like this at a sporting venue would work, I was like, you got to come with something better than that because I'll be able to knock it down, with what I know. So we're hoping that baseball happens again, and and that we can get other ambassador players out there speaking about it and stuff. So anyway,
That that was like my next question. Like, are you? Because I know last year was three of the 30 teams. Like, any other team has gonna be like join you
hmm
guys, or I mean,
well,
at some point, I would like for like every team to
hmm
have
yeah,
strikeout slavery.
hmm
Like just a day for it.
hmm
But
that is my goal.
how
That
are
was why I went
they?
to Major League Baseball in the first place, was like, can you do a day that acknowledges this issue where you can. And so, what we're trying to do with Strikeout Slavery is we're trying to empower the organizations into their own alliances. Some of them already have alliances, but what we want to do is create the relationship between the alliance and the local city organizations and the baseball team that's in their state. So, if it's in DC, or if you're in New York or Florida or wherever there's baseball, you can link up with that set. And if you're a community member, figure out how you can get involved and support the day. If you're an organization, you get in there and you help figure out how you can educate the community with everybody else. But I mean, we were with the Human Trafficking Task Force. We've been with, w- you know, people within like big government roles have taken note because they realize how powerful it is to get into sports and be talking about this. But
Yeah,
listen, none of this is about like me or Albert or me being Wonder Woman, even though I think I am some days. Other days I'm humbled by my kids or something. But it's about what the platform God's given me, and really making sure that everything I'm doing is showing people light, being the light for him and using my life as an opportunity to give him glory because it really isn't about me. And if it was up to me, none of this might have not have happened with mistakes I made in my life and different things, but God's full of grace and full of goodness, and he totally has a plan for all of us. And for me, I feel like I'm in the midst of what he has for me now and for my family. But at the end of the day, this is about keeping people safe, with the whole human trafficking issue, keeping people educated, keeping them inspired, taking broken people and watching them be made whole with an Open Gate International. There's no other job like it. I'll never get tired of that. And then, of course, being able to influence and encourage people in the Down syndrome community, because I know the shoes they're walking in. And so, just encouraging anybody that might watch our time together, that every life is important. And you might be sitting in a season of quarantine, and I'm hearing it all now, right? Like people are like, just get me out of this thing, and I travel so much, and believe me, I can't wait to get back out there and do what I love and I'm passionate about. But at the same time, I have to stop and love my kids and, love my family, do things that I wouldn't do, like organize stuff around the house, practice my languages that I study and all these different things, and appreciate the time, because it's going to go fast, you know, and people are going to realize how quickly it went. But anyway, these are, that's my encouragement for anybody. Every life matters, no matter what you're going through. Never let the things that we're going through lord over our lives. Never let somebody else decide who you're going to be. Know who you are because of what God said about us, that we're his workmanship, made in his image. We're made for a good work that he already prepared before us. And that's the place you have to stay in that place, or otherwise you'll get so distracted by media. And all of a sudden, I've watched so many people get fearful about everything they believe that the media is saying, and information that's coming through. It's coming through this way, that's coming through this way, and it's all conflicting.
Yeah.
So, encouraging people not to be fearful, and use wisdom. Use wisdom with this whole situation and the sicknesses that are being passed around. If you don't want to go out because you don't want to be exposed to something, then don't go out and don't be exposed to it. Just like stay in until you feel safe enough and have a conviction to go out. But for me, I'm ready to launch. Like, there's people out there who are,
Yeah.
who are hurting and suffering. They don't have work, and so anyway, I have to go find my cape. I'm inspiring myself right now. I'm gonna get back out there and go help people.
Yes.
Tomorrow's Giving Tuesday, right? Isn't tomorrow Giving Tuesday here in the States? So yeah. Find a place to give. Like there's always a gift to you when you give. So tomorrow's a cool day.
Yeah, I think And sometimes people don't understand giving is not just material things, like giving time, giving words of encouragement, or not like talking to people. Sometimes I don't really understand how it works, but sometimes I feel better when I listen to somebody than when somebody listens to me for some reason. Because, just like the whole somebody trusts that sharing something with me is going to make them feel better. Just that alone, it's just, by itself, it's amazing. And I'm so thankful that you joined me today. And this has been beautiful and even better than I thought it would, honestly. I do hope that I get to interview you in person at some point, right?
Yeah, well, you can find me. I'll be in one of the ballparks or something. Come out to a Strikeout Slavery Day when we have it again.
Yes, definitely. That's on my, list. And I do have to interview Albert, because I was like, I want to interview you so bad.
Well, he was here earlier, and I was thinking about making him stay around, but he appreciates and sees what you're doing too, and I talk about you often or show him things that you're posting and stuff. So we'll get him on.
Yes, we have to get him on, and I have to be nicer. Cause last time I was where is Deidre?
No, it's good. He appreciates that too. So it's good. But thank you very much for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. And this is going to be posted up on my YouTube, because I think people have to keep watching it.
Sure.
And I thank you so much, and we're going to, keep in contact. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, honey.